Welcome to Soul Elevation, guiding your ascension to new heights. I'm your host, Kara Goodwin, and I'm recording this live stream on YouTube on Friday, September 5th. If you think that you already tuned into this live stream, you could be right. I recorded a live stream about an hour ago, and I was just getting it ready to go onto the audio, and I realized that I had accidentally muted myself halfway through. So I'm going back and I'm re recording it because we lost a lot of good content with that mistake. But a few things I want to cover today. Excuse me. One is that I mentioned a few weeks ago that I decided to transition to gray. I'm not going to dye my gray anymore. I'm going to grow it out. And I haven't really talked about that since. So I wanted to share where I am in that journey and how things are going as I'm moving along. And then I've been inspired to share two really powerful health hacks that I've had great results with. One was an unintentional way to thicken my hair. I wasn't actually trying to thicken my hair, and I noticed that my hair was thicker, and I noticed like even my stylist commented about how thick my hair was. So I wanted to share how that had happened. And then another one is specifically related to women going through perimenopause, um, with which was something that I was am entering into, and I am utilizing something that is making a big, big difference into some of the symptoms that I was having. So let's start with the gray hair transition. So I'm very curious about how my hair is growing out. And if you are on a journey as well of any sort of transition, I thought it can be helpful to just tune in and see how things are going. Um, so my roots have started to grow. I'm almost to 1 month since I colored my hair last time. And so if you're watching the video, because I will release this as an audio as well, you can kind of see here some of it starting to come in, especially toward the back. So I've got about 1/2 inch of growth. It's not so much up toward the front, but it's really more prominent in the back. And then my temples as well. You can see that at my temples, the gray is starting to show. And that's common for that's the common pattern that I have, where my gray comes in a lot at the temples and at the back. So even though this is, gray hair, and it may feel like, maybe you're not going through a transition like that, but this is about more than hair. This is about a mindset, because I've thought about going gray a for a while now, and I've just not had the courage to take that first step. I haven't wanted to deal with it. I haven't really, it was just seemed easier to keep coloring my hair. And so making the decision to have a new path has required me to change my mindset. And anytime we want to go through a change from one way of being into another way of being, it requires a mindset change. So if we want to have a new fitness regime, or we want to change our diet, I went through this years ago when I stopped drinking. Um, and I decided I wanted to be alcohol free. It required a mindset shift. And I had to go that's kind of the number one thing that's going to be an indicator of success. And, I'm still a long way off from knowing if I'm quote unquote successful, and what does that even look like anyway. Um, but at this point, I am excited about it. And I can contrast that with where I usually am at this point in my process of my roots showing. Because at the 1 month mark, I usually used to get my hair dyed every 5 weeks. And so when I would have my roots showing, in I've just entered what would be my final week, and it's a battle. I'm like putting powder, like there are colored powders that you can get, or these like kind of crayony, waxy sticks that can help to cover the roots. And so it's a constant battle of like playing with my part. I would flip my part onto the other side because the part that where I usually part my hair would be grayer than where it's normally covered. So I would flip my part at a certain point just to try to mask the grays that are coming in. And so there was just this constraint that I felt with trying to keep on top of that and to make my hair not look like I had grays coming in. And there really has been a sense of freedom so far. Again, I don't want to be too cocky because I'm only 4 weeks in, but there has been this sense um, of feeling more free. I haven't normally, like I said, normally I'd be covering my roots, and I'm so curious about them now that I haven't been covering them. I may end up covering them. I feel like it's going to get harder. Again, I feel like I'm being kind of cocky coming out at 4 weeks and being enthusiastic about how it's going. Um, because I do think that there's going to be this really awkward part that, maybe it's at the 2 month mark, maybe it's at the 4 month mark. I'm not sure because I haven't gone through this yet. But um, the way that it feels right now, and because of my mindset shift, I'm seeing it as like I'm unwrapping this gift. And it's going to be maybe it's an 18-month unwrapping or a 2-year unwrapping where I'm going to see like what is underneath this dye and how has the pattern of my gray hair, how gray is it? Is it more silver? Is it more white? Is it not as noticeable as I think it's going to be? Is it way more noticeable than I think it's going to be? So there are all these ways that that I'm excited to see um, and learn more about myself. But again, it's really down to the mindset and the choice, and there's such power in that. One of the things that I have noticed with dyeing my hair so frequently is it's hard. I don't often wear my hair back, or I don't like braids. I really like braids, but braids really, I think, kind of accentuate if I have any roots showing, then they're just like all over the place if I try to do any braids. So if I were to try to braid my hair, it's really, I will have just had my hair dyed. Um, but there's all this kind of freedom that I feel in that I'm not trying to cover the gray anymore. I'm not trying to hide my roots again at this point. Um, and there is this freedom. I actually had a conversation yesterday with a podcast host who's going to have me on her podcast to talk about spiritual transformation. We're not talking about gray, but is in transition, and her gray goes down to about here, and then she's got the rest of it still dark from where she used to grow it. And I mean, she just looked so beautiful, and it made me so excited to see where she is in her journey and learn about her journey. And she's so excited. And we talked about the mindset shift and how important that was, and really just being the importance of really owning it and being ready and wanting to kind of just embody it because that's what we want. That's what we want for ourselves. And it's no longer like, well, this is what's expected of me. So that's my gray hair update. Now let's transition over to the health hacks. So the two things that I want to share are, one is about thinning hair and one is about perimenopause symptoms. And so I want to start this by saying that I am not a doctor. I am not a nurse. I'm not a healthcare practitioner. Um, I'm not a scientist. So you need to take what I say and see how it applies to your journey. You are responsible for your health, your history, and determining if something that worked for me might be something that works for you. But I offer these solutions because they are um, low risk and they could be really high reward. The other thing that I want to say in terms of not being a medical doctor is that I happened to go to my doctor yesterday, and I see a functional medicine doctor, and I rarely go to the doctor. In fact, I decided over the summer, I was like, "Oh, I haven't had a checkup in a while," and I wanted to have labs run, especially because I was starting to display perimenopausal symptoms, and I wanted to talk to to my practitioner about that. And so I call them up and I say, I wanna just have my annual visit. I wanna have some labs run because that's just something that they do every year. And I said, I'm overdue. I didn't come in. I don't think I came in last year." And they asked for my name and they couldn't find me in the system. And they said, "Oh, the system automatically kicks you out after if you haven't been in 3 years." And I was like, "Oh, I've been in 3 years. This is a mistake." And they said, "No, your last appointment was in April 2022. So you automatically got deactivated." So that I share that because I really don't go to the doctor that much. I am a pretty healthy person. And so the other thing was they did get me in and I had my labs run. And yesterday I went to see my doctor to talk about the results. And she was like, "Kara, you're super boring. This is so boring," which is great. But, at your age, usually, like, this is very, very rare. She said, "I have 1,000 clients, 1,000 patients, and of the adults, of the all of those patients, I maybe 10 of them have results like yours." Um, and so I just wanna show you on my results at age 47, I have every panel that was run was green. Okay, and these are my results. I want to kind of respect my own privacy here in terms of the data that's on this, but that's my name. That's Kara Goodwin. So these are my results. These were run August 21st of this year, age 47, and everything is green. So while I'm not a scientist, while I'm not a doctor, I am a living being out in the wild, and I think field reports are really helpful when we just see regular people who are trying things and they're having great results. And I do take care of myself, and the results are here to see that things are running well. So, but again, I'm an individual person. We're all unique, have our own chemistry, and so forth. So let's start with the thinning hair. And what happened with me was I got this red light therapy, and I have put the link to what I have been using for a while now. I put that in the show notes, and I've been using just this lamp. I mean, well, it's a light that you could screw into a lamp. But I don't have it screwed into a lamp. It's a handheld red light therapy. It's not specifically for hair. I actually bought it for my daughter to use on her back. And but then started using it. I wanted to actually use it. That I started using it on my crown. I wanted to use it as an energetic, like for my energy body. So I would like shine it down on my crown. I was using it a little bit on my face. Now, if you want to use a red light on your face, you want to be really careful around the eyes. Don't look directly at red light. And in fact, some people even use eye protection. So just be careful. I always keep my eyes closed. And again, some people like to protect their eyes even more than that by putting something over their eyes. But I just kind of hold it for a little while on my skin, on my neck, again, kind of getting that thyroid area. I will kind of part my hair along in different places around my head and shine the light in there because, again, I started this for my crown, for my third eye, but then I started noticing that my hair, when I was washing my hair, that it was heavy and it was like taking forever for the water to even get my hair all the way wet. And I was like, what in the world? Like, why is it taking so long for my hair to get wet? And then my hairstylist commented that my hair felt different and it felt thicker. And I'm like, I think I'm getting a lot of new growth, which is, I think I said this already, but I'm 47. So that's not the normal trend that your hair gets thicker with age, tends to get thinner. And I hadn't noticed that my hair was thinning. But when I also started noticing that there wasn't as much hair coming out when I would wash my hair or brush my hair. Um, as I was used to. And so, red light therapy, I really highly recommend if you want to work on thickening your hair. It's also great for your skin. I've somebody in my family has been dealing with acne and dealing with it for a long time and like acne scars. We got a different red light. We got a mask and it has different lights actually. And I'll try to remember to put a link to this, what they've been using. But they have a red light mask. Actually, and so they use it. I think it's like they do 10 minutes with the red setting and then 10 minutes with the blue setting, but it might be the other way around. Now I'm not sure. Can't remember. Um, but the combination of red light, blue light, I have noticed a difference. My husband has noticed a difference. And we had tried a lot of topical things to try to fix that. So that, I mean, red light, do your research to understand the science behind it because I know that it works like in the skin and it like absorbs into the skin, but I don't know that I haven't memorized the ins and outs of why it's so powerful. So I'm going to just check that I didn't accidentally mute my mic because now I'm traumatized from what happened last time. And we're good. Okay. So red light for hair growth. I also love that you don't have to ingest anything because I have seen that there are some things that are being advertised where you can take something, you can ingest something, and it's supposed to help your hair. Maybe that's works. Maybe it's natural. I don't know, but this is obviously, not something that's chemically working in your system like something that you would ingest. Um, and then finally, for the perimenopause piece, so this is my next health hack that I've been blown away by. So a few months ago, I started noticing changes in my cycle. I was having like a super short cycle followed by an extra long cycle. The actual days of flow were changing, and there was a lot changing. I was having cramping, and so that was actually why I went to the doctor and I wanted to have these labs run because I could tell things were changing. So I had a conversation with a friend of mine about this, and she said, "Have you ever tried seed cycling?" And I didn't know what that was. Um, and I'm in my third month of doing seed cycling, and things have normalized. My cycles the last two cycles have been back to about what they were. They're the same length. I don't really have cramps. I'm just like blown away. And then again, like I had these lab results come back and my hormone levels are good. Everything is pointing to normal. So what seed cycling is for from day 1 of the day you start your period until day 14. You take ground pumpkin and flax seeds. So 1 tablespoon of flax seed, 1 tablespoon of pumpkin seed, ground and organic. And so I recommend that you buy them whole. Buy them whole and raw. So don't buy them ground because once they're ground, from what I understand, they start to lose that freshness pretty rapidly. But you don't have to grind them. You don't have to grind one portion every day. So I grind enough for like a few days at a time, put it in a mason jar or some kind of container and put it in the fridge. And then that helps to keep it more shelf stable when it's in the fridge. And then you just take a tablespoon of that at a time. I like to cut up some fruit, put some berries in there and a little bit of yogurt. And then I sprinkle a tablespoon of each on top. And you do this every day. So however you want to do it, you can add it to a smoothie, add it to a soup or salad or whatever floats your boat. You can put it on some avocado toast, whatever you want to do to ingest that. But ideally, you're doing that every day. Once you get to day 15, you switch to sesame seed and sunflower seed. Again, ground, organic, raw. And same sort of thing. You can just make up a few days worth. I do keep them in separate containers. So even though you're always doing sesame and sunflower together and flax and pumpkin, I keep them all in separate containers because I just want to make sure that I'm getting a full tablespoon of each one and not having a mix and not sure like how much I got of each one. Um, I did research this before I started doing it and learned about, the nutrients that it helps to restore and things like that, but I don't retain that type of information. So if you're interested in what this replenishes within you, then do your research, go and look. Um, Also make sure that there aren't any recommendations like you should avoid this if you're taking something. I have no idea what that would be, but again, own your journey. And but I think this isn't very widely known. I have only heard about it from my one friend. I mentioned it to my doctor that I saw yesterday, and she's like, I've heard of this, but I don't know a lot about it. So tell me about it. And, that's a medical professional, a functional medicine doctor who's not even, kind of like not even a traditional Western medicine doctor. So I've just had really great and quick results with this. So I'm going to keep doing this. And I would much rather be doing this and be able to prolong any sort of, needing to go on any sort of hormone therapy or anything like that. I love that it's just natural. And then it's also, like I said, it's the things that I wasn't even trying to aim to fix, like the cramps. I wasn't really trying to help fix the cramping, but that has gone down too. So I really have had a great experience with seed cycling, um, and I would highly recommend you check it out. And the thing that I love so much with this type of approach is that it's helping to build up the depletion, where we may have become deficient, it's adding back in nutrients that help our bodies to run efficiently. That's really even behind functional medicine. And again, I didn't learn this through functional medicine practitioner, but that's why I like functional medicine and that's why I have these labs drawn up so that I can see, okay, here are the levels of when the body is optimally running. It's got this measurement of cholesterol and what else is on here? Lipoprotein and, the hormone levels that are indicated. You're looking at where your levels are against what a healthy range is. And if anything's outside of the recommended, what they're looking for, then there are supplements, there are minerals, there's food that you can take to help build that back up. So rather than saying like, okay, here are your symptoms and here's the prescription that's going to help to offset that, but then it comes with its own counterindications, it comes with its own side effects. So rather than that, it's like, okay, well, yeah, it makes sense that you're feeling tired or that your cycles are off or that you're experiencing depression or anxiety or whatever it is. We can see it within your blood that you're missing these elements. And here are some natural remedies that can help to bump those numbers up or bring them down or whatever you need. So I think it's a great place to start. And again, as long as there's not some sort of thing with your own chemistry or your own, like whatever you're taking right now, that would be that would counter something for you. I mean, you're just talking about seeds. They're natural, they're from the earth. Um, and with the hair, we're talking about a red light. So you're not dealing with the side effects. And so I think I hope that it can be complementary to anything that you're doing, or it can be a great place to start. Be patient with it, do your best. these, like I said, with the seed cycling, it's something that I do every day. I try to do every day. I have missed some days because life happens, but we do our best. So I hope that that's helpful and supportive for you for where you are in your health journey. And I want to mention that I did release yesterday a podcast episode with the skeptic metaphysicians. That was a great conversation with Will and Karen. Check that out because there's some fascinating stories that they share in terms of like timeline jumps that they've experienced and a ghost saving Karen's life with a really scary encounter that she had. And then earlier in the week, I released a kind of a bonus episode because I'm sitting on all of these great episodes that are part of my backlog that I just haven't been able to release yet because I try to release one interview a week. And so anyway, months ago, I interviewed somebody named Reverend Lynn Laborde, and it was an amazing interview, but it just hasn't been released yet. And I'm getting great feedback from people who are listening to this. We had technical interference as we recorded. In fact, we had to switch over to Zoom to get some stability because I was hearing all of this crazy, like this whispering and these tones and all of this. I couldn't hear what she was saying. And I've had a viewer who was listening to the episode as she was driving, and suddenly the sound just became this really high pitch, and she couldn't hear anything. And so she started the episode over, and then it was fine. So, and that she's like, it could have been my car, but that never happens. So, very strange that she experienced that on her end months later, and also just the content of the podcast itself. So we talk about Mother Mary, we talk about the halls of Amenti and the Akashic records. And I've gotten people who've reached out are like, this is so timely. This is exactly what I need to be hearing. The universe is sending me these signals, and this is right in line with what I need to hear right now. So for me, that's fascinating because again, I've held on to this episode just because of my backlog. And there's a part of me that's like, I wish I could have released this sooner. I want it to get out there. And so when I hear things like that, it's like, okay, well, it's all in divine timing. Just trust the timing, Kara. So I hope that you will listen to those and get a lot from them. I thank you so much for being here. I wish you a beautiful day, weekend ahead, or wherever you are in time and space. I bless you. Thank you for tuning in.